We don't need a failed daughter. On the day I graduated high school, my family abandoned me. When I came home, the house was empty. Eventually, I got through to my mom on the phone, but all my parents and Marina did was laugh at my panic. It seems my family, excluding me, decided to move to New York because Marina passed the audition at a modeling agency. Marina is going to become the top model in the States. So, what can you become, Sarah? I don't have a left leg. Does that mean I'm worthless? I was desperate at first, but being abandoned by my family gave me freedom. Someday, I'll make the family that abandoned me regret it. I'm Sarah Parker, 27 years old. I live with my paternal grandparents.
Yes, Grandpa. I fixed the button on your shirt. Oh, thank you.
Sarah, you're really good at sewing, aren't you? Grandma can hardly thread a needle anymore.
It's okay. Leave everything to me.
Pounding my chest, Grandpa narrowed his eyes and said, "You're so reliable." Fixing a shirt button? That's the least I could do. I want them to rely on me for anything. After all, my grandparents are my benefactors. It feels like a lifetime ago. The oldest memory I vaguely have is the strange sensation of not having a leg. At the age of 3, I lost my left leg below the knee. My memory of it is quite faint, but I still get goosebumps remembering the pain and how much I hated getting those repeated injections. But more than the pain, what was unbearable was being alone in the hospital. Mom didn't come today either. Will she come tomorrow? I would ask. The nurse would give me an ambiguous smile. She'll surely come on Sunday, I was comforted, but it never happened as said. The kind nurse's lies only made young me feel more dejected. Normally, a time when a toddler knows no bounds, I was unable to walk for a while, leading to a life of limitations. But I remember walking normally by the time I was in elementary school. I had a prosthetic leg. Unfortunately, I sometimes had to sit out during physical education classes, but I could climb stairs and even run a bit. There were almost no obstacles in my daily life. At school, I wasn't treated differently, and I had friends. I loved school. I wish I could stay at school forever. Because there's no place for me at home.
Tata, I tried on the new dress. How do I look? Cute?
My sister, Marina, who is 2 years older than me, twirled around. Her soft skirt with frills spread out like a flower.
Marina, you're so cute. Just like a model.
My mother lavished praise on Marina. My father took photos of Marina from various angles, camera in hand. Marina, as if it were only natural, lifted her chin proudly. Marina really looks good in anything she wears. I just want to buy her all the clothes. Maybe she'll be a model in the future? Her legs are so slender. My mom said, hands on her cheeks, wiggling her hips. My dad nodded vigorously. It was clear my parents were utterly smitten with Marina. At around 10 years old, I was the only one feeling out of place, thinking how silly my parents were being.
Right? I do have long legs, don't I? I feel like they're longer than any of my friends. Yes, yes. I think Marina has the longest legs. They just keep getting longer, and I'm troubled because all the cute clothes quickly become too small, my mom lamented.
Marina put her index finger to her lips. Normally, the clothes I outgrow could be handed down to my sister, but Sarah isn't normal. Ah, well, because she isn't normal. They all got carried away on their own, yet for some reason, they looked at me with pity. Is there a rule in my family to put me down once a day? By the age of 10, I had become able to accept reality, but at a much younger age, I was dominated by sadness and anger. Marina has always swayed in flouncy skirts like those worn by dolls, while I was always in baggy pants. The soft, gray, or black sweatpants looked like pajamas, no matter how you saw them. And since they matched with pants, the tops were always t-shirts and hoodies. I want to wear cute skirts, too. I once appealed to my mom. She looked at me with wide eyes, shocked. What? That's impossible, you know?
Your leg isn't normal, so we can't expose it to people's eyes. Wouldn't you be embarrassed if people saw your leg?
I'm not embarrassed. All my friends know about my leg.
On. No, no. Even if you're not embarrassed, I would be, so stop it.
If skirts that revealed my legs were out of the question, I at least longed to wear cool denim pants. Huh? Jeans?
They're hard fabric, so they'd be hard to wear, right? Your mom buys you pants that are easy to wear for your sake. Do you understand your mom's kindness?
Besides, jeans are expensive, so no.
But you buy lots of clothes for my sister. Really? You're complaining when we've bought you a leg? We're spending extra on something you need, and you still want more?
Clothes for your sister, a leg for you.
Is that unfair? Tell me, is it unfair?
Under my mom's pressure, I shook my head no. My mom muttered under her breath.
Your leg was expensive, you know. We're paying for something most people don't need to, providing you with a luxury, and yet you're still greedy. Don't trouble your mom.
The next day, Marina returned from the mall with my dad, new clothes in hand, and put on a fashion show in front of the mirror. Meanwhile, I was stuck in the same plain sweats whether I was sleeping or going out. I've always wished I could dress up. That thought was always on my mind. This lifestyle didn't change even when I became a middle school student. Actually, I was looking forward to wearing a school uniform, but I mostly attended school in a tracksuit. It seems my mom had talked to the school out of concern for me. My kind mom successfully made me out to be a pitiable child. On the rare occasion that a uniform was required, I wore boys' trousers. The neighbor's kid, Brent, just graduated, so that was a lifesaver. Yes, it was a hand-me-down. Was it just because a boy's uniform happened to be available, or did she go to such lengths to hide my leg? I couldn't understand my mom's feelings. I'd lost the capacity for such tender emotions as sadness, and felt detached, as if it were happening to someone else. Marina's aspirations to become a model only grew stronger. She'd upload trendy photos like Sweets and Me or Blue Sky and Me on social media, and grin at the number of likes she got. Often, I was asked, no, commanded to take pictures for Marina, and she'd hand me her smartphone. Refusing was too much hassle, so I'd just press the shutter button. But Marina's checks were quite strict, and she'd make me take shot after shot, which was annoying. Yeah, that looks good, I guess. The angle from below makes my legs look super long. This is okay. Wait, what? Hold on a sec. Sarah is reflected in the window behind me. Marina immediately deleted all the photos she had just taken.
That was close. It'd be the worst if people found out I have a sister like you. You're so insensitive, showing up in my photos. You shouldn't be seen by anyone. Think about your place.
Even though I helped with the photo shoot, this was the treatment I received. I didn't even have the energy to fight back, I just took Marina's insults. I'm not wanted in this house. I'm just in the way. I understood that painfully well, so I tried not to provoke my parents or Marina and lived as if I were just part of the air. But, never in my wildest dreams did I think I would be abandoned right at my high school graduation. What's this? When I came home after the graduation ceremony, the house was in disarray. Clothes and a spatula were oddly strewn about the floor. But there was no sign of the TV, refrigerator, or Marina's mirror. It looked like the aftermath of a burglar taking all the valuables. Mom, you're not here? Today, my mom didn't come to my graduation ceremony. Looking around, it seemed like I was the only one whose parent hadn't shown up. If she had errands, that would be one thing, but she was still in bed when I left the house, which probably means she just wasn't interested in my graduation. The strange state of the house made me shiver. I didn't care about replaceable things like the TV. What mattered was whether my mom was safe. What if she had encountered a burglar? The worst scenarios flashed through my mind. No matter how indifferent my mom seemed towards me, I was anxious. I checked the bedroom, the bathroom, the balcony, but there was no sign of her. I tried calling her cell phone, but it wouldn't connect. So, I tried calling my dad, only to get his voicemail. Unable to stay still, I kept calling my mom over and over again. The ringing sound echoed incessantly in my ear. Then, suddenly, the sound stopped. What? It was my mom's voice. She sounded irritable, but I felt a wave of relief wash over me, tears blurring my vision. Mom. You finally answered. I'm so glad you're safe. Are you okay? Huh? I quickly explained the situation at home. Then, halfway through, my mom burst out laughing. What are you misunderstanding? There's been no burglary. Oh, really? Of course. We just moved out of the house. What? I hadn't noticed before because I was so desperate, but the background on the other end of the phone was a bit noisy. I could hear Marina and my dad laughing. Hey, Mom, what's Sarah saying? She's panicking, thinking a burglar got into the house. See, I told you we should have left a note. Poor Sarah. I couldn't keep up with their cheerful conversation.
Hey, Sarah. We're moving to the city. Do you know why?
I couldn't respond because I didn't know the answer.
Guess what? I've become a model.
So, Marina passed the audition at a modeling agency, and my family, excluding me, decided to move to Tokyo.
Just right, since you've graduated high school, you'll be fine on your own, right? We could have moved earlier but waited until today for you. You see our kindness, don't you?
They took care of me until I finished compulsory education. Though I was set to go to college, if I wanted to attend, I'd have to figure out the finances on my own. Looking for a part-time job now would be impossible. My mom seemed to enjoy adding, well, if that's the case, it can't be helped. Frozen with my phone still to my ear, my mom delivered the final blow. Marina is going to become the top model in the States. So, what can you become, Sarah? We don't need a failed daughter. Then the call was cut off. It was cruel, impossible, help me, don't abandon me. I wanted to call back and plead, but I stopped myself. My voice wouldn't reach my parents anyway. It was impossible for me, just 17 and freshly graduated from high school, to suddenly live on my own. Maybe my middle school teachers would help if I begged them. No, that would just be a burden. Then, the idea of my grandparents came to mind. My paternal grandparents lived in the same city, but I hadn't seen them in about 10 years. I often heard my mom badmouth them, saying they were devils old enough to torment even her. Someone with a strong will. I might be turned away at their doorstep, but they were the only relatives I could turn to. Still in my uniform with a congratulatory graduation flower pinned to my chest, I boarded a bus and headed to the house of my grandparents, whose faces I barely remembered.
Is that you, Sarah? Sarah, is it? You've grown so much. We've wanted to see you for so long.
As soon as we saw each other, my grandmother, with tears welling up in her eyes, embraced me. I had braced myself for meeting terrible people, but all the tension drained from my body instantly. Then tears began to stream down my face. The emotions I had been unconsciously holding back flooded out. Collapsing at the entrance, I told my grandparents everything through my tears. My grandmother's face twisted with emotion, and she was at a loss for words. My grandfather gently stroked my shoulder as I sobbed. It's all right, don't worry about a thing. The grandparents I had imagined to be wicked were nothing of the sort, and in them, I found salvation. Sarah, you're not a failure. You're a normal girl. Don't hold back, live as you wish. Since then, I've been living with my grandparents. Since coming to their house, I've never been told no. Whenever I consult my grandparents, they always encourage me, give it a try. This is how I ended up wearing a fluttery knee-length skirt for the first time in my memory.
Sarah, you look adorable. It suits you well.
A mix of shyness and joy filled my heart to the brim. I had never known that simply wearing clothes I liked could make my heart dance like this. My grandparents accepted me, no matter what. When I dyed my hair brown, my grandfather greeted me with a hello. When I bought pants with torn knees, my worried grandmother added appliques to them, and I secretly cried. I had been saving money from my part-time job to buy a sewing machine, and on Christmas morning, I found a high-end sewing machine placed beside my pillow. I was surprised that Santa Claus came for me at this age. All of these are precious memories to me. Living without restrictions, I went on to a fashion school after I moved in with my grandparents. During my time there, I launched my own brand. I create the cute skirts and cool denim pants I've always admired. While I focus on design, that's not all there is to it. My clothes are made to be easy for everyone to wear, regardless of age, gender, health, or physical challenges. Now, I'm 27 years old. Work is going well, and I lead a fulfilling life. But suddenly, the skies began to look ominous.
Sarah, it's been so long.
My mother greeted me with open arms. It seemed she had been lying in wait in front of my company. I stepped back, but she took 2 large steps towards me. Looking around for help, I noticed my father was there too, grinning and scratching his head.
Sarah has become so respectable. This is your company, right? Amazing. Your mom always believed you'd make it big.
It's been 10 years since my family abandoned me. I had no desire for a touching reunion. I had a hunch why my parents were appearing before me now, of all times. Recently, I had a TV interview. It was mainly about the products my company offers, but it seems my parents were caught off guard by the fact that Sarah is the CEO.
Really impressive. After seeing you on TV, I immediately started looking into it. Your company's annual revenue is $1 billion? Does that make you a billionaire? That's right, isn't it? Your mom is so proud to have such an amazing daughter.
My mother, excited, grasped my hand.
Let's live together again. We've moved back from the city.
My mother narrowed her eyes kindly, exuding a soft and warm atmosphere, but it didn't touch my heart at all. Instead, I felt a shiver run down my spine. Mom, huh? I tilted my head slightly, keeping my tone light. I'm sorry, but as far as I'm concerned, I don't have a mother. What? Sarah? Trying to keep the mood from getting too heavy, I offered a light smile to explain. 10 years ago, I was abandoned by my family. My mother, my father, and my sister all left me. So, I don't have a mother. I've been asked about my family before, by school friends and others. Telling them I was abandoned on the day of my middle school graduation would surely draw sympathy. So, I chose to smile a little, acting as if I wasn't bothered by the past. What, are you mad? Still holding on to something that happened 10 years ago? You're more vindictive than I thought. My mother attempted to laugh it off, but I maintained the smile I reserved for strangers. It's been 10 years, so I'm not angry anymore. I simply don't care about people who are irrelevant to me. My mother's eyes widened, and her jaw trembled violently. It seems when you succeed in your career or hit the jackpot, relatives somehow multiply. The only choice for those swarming around money like filthy flies is extermination. After all, I can't assert that the aged woman before me is truly my biological mother. Despite 10 years passing, she looked significantly different from the mother in my memories. Sarah? We are family. We're connected by unbreakable bonds. For a moment, my mother, who had rolled her eyes back, regained her composure and firmly grasped my hand again. My memory of family has faded, so I can't really say. But you are not my mother. Her grip on my hand tightened. Without changing my expression or showing any pain, I continued calmly. Because my mother is not an old woman wrinkled like you. My mother's hand, which had been gripping mine, jerked away and covered her face. My sister went to New York to pursue modeling. I remember our mother also had a high sense of beauty and was diligent about skincare. Despite the passage of 10 years, my mother in her 50s couldn't possibly look like an old lady now. With all due respect, you're in your 70s, aren't you? The woman let out a small shriek, her face contorting in agony. The wrinkles on her face seemed to deepen even more. Her ugly appearance resembled that of a wicked old hag straight out of a fairy tale. Although I treated her as a stranger, deep down I knew there was a semblance of my mother in her. However, there was no denying that she looked like she was in her 70s. Her face was covered in wrinkles, her cheek skin drooping like a bulldog's jowls. Gray hairs stood out in her hair, which was dry and frizzy. And she looked more gaunt than slim. The fingers of the hand that had been holding mine moments ago resembled dried branches of a tree. She was a far cry from the moderately beautiful mother I knew 10 years ago.
Ungrateful. Are you planning to repay the kindness I showed you in raising you like this? I'm your real mother, without a doubt. How about showing some filial piety if you're a daughter?
My mother lunged at me. Seeing her desperate state and drastic transformation, it was clear she must be struggling in life. What do you mean by filial piety? I asked quietly. A smirk appeared on my mother's lips. Well, you're a CEO, right? So it's only natural for you to support your family. Yes. I support my important family members. In that case. I brushed aside my mother's hand, which seemed fragile enough to break with a snap. My family consists only of my grandparents, I stated. What? The rest of my family abandoned me, so there's no obligation for me to support them, right? What?
Don't be cruel just because you have money. I'm not asking you to hand over your entire fortune, just give me like $20,000 or something, that should be enough.
I simply looked down at my mother, who was desperately clinging to me. Changing her tone of voice, she tried to play the sympathy card.
You see, Sarah, your mother is in trouble. Living in the city is expensive, and things are tough. Could you lend me a little money? After all, we're family, right?
She gazed at me with teary eyes. But unfortunately, the pitiful look of an old hag didn't move my heart. Just as I was growing tired of dealing with her, two figures approached from behind her. What do you want now? My mother snapped as she turned around. Only to find my grandparents there. Her face contorted visibly, clearly irritated. Is it wrong to come to see my own daughter?
Yes, it is.
My grandfather chimed in immediately.
You've got some nerve showing your face in front of the daughter you abandoned. You did abandon her, right? You don't want her anymore, right? To you, she's just trash, isn't she? How pathetic to cling to that trash.
Mind your own business. Who would have thought that the trash we threw away would turn out to be a diamond? How ridiculous. My grandfather goaded. Bursting into laughter, undoubtedly making my mother appear even more villainous. But my grandparents weren't the villains my mother made them out to be. I knew them well from the 10 years we spent together. Even though my grandfather seemed worked up now, he never cursed my parents right after I was abandoned. After calming down the overly sarcastic grandfather, my grandmother spoke gently. We've heard rumors about you. It seems you're even borrowing money from distant relatives. Are you in financial trouble? Blushing, my mother muttered under her breath. Yeah, I am. I don't have any money. Then, in the next moment, she exploded with frustration.
I don't have any money. And it's all because of Marina.
Hatred was written all over my mother's face. Despite how much she had doted on Marina, something had clearly gone wrong.
There was nothing. She achieved nothing. All she does is spend money on clothes and cosmetics, never landing a single modeling gig. That money-hungry leech. A useless daughter.
My mother exclaimed, tapping her right foot in frustration. As I recoiled from her unbearable behavior, a figure dressed in black emerged from the shade of a nearby tree. For a moment, I thought it might be a wild boar charging out, causing my heart to skip a beat, but to my surprise, it was Marina.
Hey, Mom. Don't you dare insult me when I'm here listening quietly. I'm cute. I'm the most beautiful. Marina,
with her heavy breathing, barely retained a semblance of her appearance from 10 years ago.
It's true that you don't have a job. You just spent lots of money. But that's not my fault. It's because people around me don't appreciate my charm. And, Mom, don't lie. I've done modeling gigs a few times.
Marina's defense was valid. Despite living a fulfilling life, I couldn't shake off the fact that my family had abandoned me, often finding myself checking Marina's social media. Her posts were filled with stunning photos, each one making me feel worse than before, yet I couldn't stop, only adding to my misery. But then, I noticed something. No likes or comments on Marina's posts. Upon closer inspection, she only had 6 followers. I was surprised that Marina's social media account had fewer followers than my neglected one from the past. Moreover, the occasional comments on her posts seemed to carry subtle malice. Upon peeking into the account, although the name wasn't mentioned, it was evident that they were posting derogatory comments about Marina. Acting like a pro without any experience. Pride higher than anyone else's. Heard they had to reshoot for hours because they couldn't bring out my charm in a shoot where they didn't even mention my name? No wonder they can't land modeling gigs. Nobody wants to deal with such difficult people. Why are they talking like they know everything? I'm a professional, so what's wrong with being particular? You're currently out of work. That's the answer. I scrutinized Marina's face closely. The pale complexion, the large eyes that took up a third of her face, the pink lips, the pointed chin. None of those features matched the Marina in front of me. The Marina on social media was built on lies and pretense. I'm different from those ordinary models. I don't resort to plastic surgery or pander to men. I'm the real deal, right? I'm not some bottom-tier model who relies on connections for work. I'm done with that ridiculous world. Despite being abandoned even by my mother, Marina's confidence was admirable. In a way, I couldn't help but respect her. Well, I never expected plain old Sarah to become the president of an apparel brand. Could it be that you want to use me as a model? Come on, tell me the truth. You want to favor family, right? But if you really insist, Sarah, I could be the model for your clothes, you know? Her super positive personality was probably thanks to all the pampering she received from our parents. While she's confident now, she's the complete opposite of me, who has always lived with my head down. If you asked me if I envy Marina, I'd hesitate to answer. My big sister as the model for our brand? Well, it depends on the terms, right? I could even consider an exclusive contract? I see. But, you know, our brand values a natural vibe. We aim to showcase people as they are, so it might be difficult for you, big sis. Huh? I've been checking your social media. The person on social media and the real you are totally different. Modeling without any editing. Can you handle that? Marina's eyes widened so much that her false eyelashes came loose. Her once porcelain-like skin now looked cracked like pottery. I have no intention of providing financial assistance, nor do I plan to use you as a model, big sis. You abandoned me, so please just leave me alone. I firmly stated, turning my back on my mother's. Marina muttered, her voice trembling slightly, "Who do you think you are, with venom?" Truth be told, I knew in advance that my mothers were coming to see me. It was all written on Marina's social media. Will become an exclusive model for a certain company, or when I return to my hometown, everyone will be sneaking glances at me. Why? Can they tell I'm a model from the city just by my aura? It was all pure fantasy. While it's embarrassing to watch, I'm grateful for these posts because they allowed me to keep track of my enemies' movements. I had been prepared for my mothers to come around today or tomorrow, so I was able to handle the situation calmly without getting flustered. As I was about to leave with my grandparents, my father, who had been silent the whole time, grinned and approached me. Sarah, your dad hasn't done anything terrible to you. He's just a victim who was always scared of your strong-willed mother and Marina. Deep down, he was always worried about you. Your dad is safe, right? My father's words caught me off guard, and I couldn't help but feel a little shaken. Huh? I stammered. My father started, thank my grandparents. Mom, Dad. Thank you for taking care of Sarah. You've protected my precious daughter, and for that, I'm grateful. But from now on, I'll be the one to support Sarah. My grandparents were taken aback as well. Then, Mother raised her voice angrily.
You, shut up. Whether you're here or not doesn't matter.
She was right. Thanks to Mother, I came to my senses. Father, you're just as guilty for not doing anything, aren't you? Huh? That's ridiculous. Marina and Mom were the ones directly attacking. Don't lump Dad in with those nasty women. Father, trying to appease me with a mix of timidity and smirks, was repulsive. It suddenly struck me that I harbored no feelings toward this man. He was truly inconsequential, both then and now. Don't start acting like a father all of a sudden. You're not needed in Sarah's life anymore, my grandfather firmly expressed my sentiments. With an embarrassed air, Father deployed his usual tactic of blending into the background, effectively disappearing once again. However, Mother, unwilling to give up, weakly reached out to me. With her elderly appearance, she appeared pitiful, tugging at people's consciences with her appearance, which was indeed effective. Sarah, I'm truly sorry. It was all my fault. You've always lived earnestly without complaining, such a respectable child. I just misunderstood that you didn't need my help because you're such a wonderful child. I've realized that now. The truly precious daughter isn't Marina, it's you, Sarah. My mother's teary eyes wouldn't leave me. As for Marina, she managed to pass the audition for the modeling agency, but instead of getting paid for work, she ended up having to pay money. Enrollment fees, lesson fees, and all that. Wasn't she deceived? Even though your father quit his job and went all the way to the city to support her. And once she got there, there were plenty of girls cuter than Marina everywhere. It was impossible for Marina to be a model from the start. My mother's mouth kept going, perhaps because I was listening silently.
On the other hand, Sarah, you're a president. How amazing is that? Just as I'd expect from my child.
The more she praised me, the colder my heart grew. I was supposed to be the unwanted daughter, considered a failure.
No, did I ever say you were a failure?
My grandfather interjected, feigning innocence between my mother and me. Speaking of which, it's quite something for you to call someone else a failure. Wasn't it you who took away Sarah's leg? My mother tensed up. Didn't you mistake the gas pedal for the brake? You crashed into Sarah playing in the yard with a speeding car. The yard and the car were both a mess. It's a miracle Sarah survived.
That was decades ago. There's no need to bring that up again. You blamed me enough back then. Are you still trying to bully me?
The reason for the estrangement between my mother and grandparents finally became clear. It seems that this incident was the cause of their falling out. My mother, who still shows no remorse, apparently only cared about self-preservation even back then, claiming the brakes didn't work. I didn't step on the gas, refusing to take responsibility. It was all about her, not my well-being. Although I don't remember, I can imagine what my mother was like back then. So, this leg, it was because of you, Mom.
No, it wasn't. I didn't run you over because I hated you. It was an accident. Oh, because of that guilt, I ended up treating you harshly. Yes, it's all because of that dreadful accident.
My mother collapsed into tears like a tragic heroine. Frankly, it should be me who wants to cry. You couldn't admit your own fault, could you? Instead of saying sorry for doing something wrong, you continue to do worse things. You call me a failure? You're the real failure here. Don't ever show up in front of me again. My mother's melodramatic sobbing stopped. My grandfather chuckled softly. The tables have turned. How does it feel to be abandoned by your failure daughter, as a failure parent? My mother shook with anger and despair. Tears were flowing, but she seemed unable to speak. Turning around, my grandfather showed me a kind smile.
Come on, Sarah. We're going to be late for our steak restaurant reservation. Let's go quickly. I'm looking forward to some delicious steak.
My family consists only of my grandparents. After that, Marina became a celebrity overnight. Likes and comments were increasing at an amusing rate. It seems a passerby had filmed our argument that day and uploaded it to social media. Fortunately, or unfortunately, the video showed me being verbally abused, leading to a storm of criticism towards Marina and my mother. Marina must be thrilled to have finally become a celebrity. Say, Sarah, please explain that the fight was a misunderstanding. But then, my mother and Marina pleaded with me.
No matter how much I comment back, it's just adding fuel to the fire. Sarah, you have to do something.
There's nothing I can do. I'm just trash that's been thrown away. As I responded with self-deprecation, Marina and my mother made a scene, kneeling down and screaming in frustration. I didn't want to be involved any further, so I strengthened security at my company to avoid seeing their faces. Initially irritated by the situation, Marina, true to her super positive nature, took advantage of the attention by flooding her identified social media with selfies. The strategy seemed to be that people would eventually become fans of Marina, even if they were initially looking at her social media for criticism. However, as expected, the plan failed. The comments section was filled with aggressive remarks. Finally, even Marina's super positive mentality collapsed. Instead of selfies, Marina started posting several distressed messages, and now, her updates have ceased altogether. I don't know what has become of Marina and my mother. Oh, I forgot about my father. Of course, I don't care about that either. This encounter with my mother and the others has reignited my gratitude towards my grandparents.
Grandpa, Grandma, thank you.
Saying it out loud feels a bit embarrassing. My grandmother took my hand.
It's natural for grandparents to love their grandchildren.
Thanks to my grandparents, I was able to become a normal girl.
Children should spoil their grandparents as much as they can.
I'm already 27 years old.
To us, someone in their 20s is still very much a child.
Age and social status don't matter.
When I'm in front of my grandparents, I can be my true self.